Hello, and thank you for joining us today for Tiger Talk. I'm here today with Peter Thor, principal at Southview Elementary. I'm excited to have you with me, Pete, today.
Thanks for having me.
We're going to talk about guided math in just a little bit and some changes that Southview is implementing in some of the classrooms to try and meet individual needs for students in math classes. Before that, though, I do have a few updates that we'll share, just kind of what's going on in our schools. First thing I want to communicate is just changes based on the calendar based on inclement weather. So right now we have had one snow day that we had already used all our e-learning days and one snow day that we need to make up. So that date has been set to be on February 20th. That's going to be a makeup date. But we have lots of other things going on in the district with calendar too. So I want to talk a little bit about the end of the quarter. End of the quarter, we did change that date because of the late starts, early outs, all the changes we had based off of weather. End of second quarter's been moved to Wednesday, January 25th. And third quarter now starts on Thursday, January 26th. On the Friday, the January 20th, that has been scheduled as a workshop day previously, so we're keeping that day for teachers as workshop for grades 5 through 12. Friday is a comp day for our preschool through fourth grade teachers, so that's going to remain the same. We didn't change anything with that day. And as additional snow days come, which Minnesota weather certainly has been interesting this winter, we'll just communicate changes as they come up. I also want to share a little bit about our new CTI location, Highway 59. We've been waiting for the last couple months and getting approval from the state to start our construction on that location. We are anticipating within the next couple weeks we'll have that approval, but we'll start construction out there. The facilities committee recently walked through plans, timelines, everything with that, and we are still on track to be opening this next fall at that new location. Really excited to get that up and going and have our expanded CTE offerings starting. At Parkside Elementary, some fun things taking place. Our preschool program, preschool registration we're almost ready to start. We're going to have an online registration for families again with that. We do have VPK funding we're applying for again for next year. VPK funding covers costs for all of our 4-year-olds to attend preschool at no additional charge. That includes the transportation, the breakfast, and everything is part of that. So we're hoping to have that again for next year. 3-year-old preschool will again be 2 half days each week for the 23-24 school year. And we are planning an open house for our 3-year-old families. That will be on March 2nd from 4 o'clock until 6 o'clock at Parkside Elementary. So you can come in, you can tour the building, you can talk to the teachers, and you can fill out your registration at that time. So March 2nd from 4 until 6 is preschool open house at Parkside, and more information will be certainly sent out to families, and other families with questions can contact the Parkside office about that. Preschool is again also scheduling their annual dance that they do. That's going to be on February 24th. They're planning all the details for that, and more information will be coming out soon. But if you have a preschooler and you're interested in that annual dance, that's going to be February 24th again this year. We have a lot of mid-year testing taking place. We'll talk a little bit about that data too. DIBELS is a new reading assessment that we're giving. It's the name of the new reading assessment we give to kind of check, benchmark our kids, where they're at, what growth are they making, and who's needing intervention, and just exactly where kids are at. Some data with that in kindergarten this year, we went from 22% in the fall at core support, it's called. That means students who need just the solid core instruction in the classroom, so they're ready to go without additional intervention. That rose from 22% in the fall to 46% at winter benchmarks. That was a 24% increase in performance for our kindergartners. So that was really good data to see. First grade, that number changed from 40% in core support in the fall to 51% at the winter benchmark. So that was some good growth there as well. The intensive support for kindergarten, the kids needing the greatest level of support, went from 60% to 34%, and first grade went from 43% to 26%. So we're really excited about some of the growth we're seeing with changes. Last month's Tiger Talk, Darcy was here and we talked about science of reading and some reading changes taking place, and this data would be evidence that some of that work is really being effective and helping our kids grow. At Southview, they've also given that DIBELS assessment recently. Just before holiday break, they found many of the students were making adequate progress there as well. As a building, they saw the percentage of students needing that intensive or strategic support drop from 53% in the fall down to 47% in the winter. So also seeing some growth and some good things happening with our data at Southview. Other things that Southview shared, they recently were invited by the SMSU men's basketball team to bring our students and our staff over to the college. They got to attend an elementary schools day, a basketball game at the college, and the kids had a great time. I think staff had a great time, Pete, with that as too. Just a really fun event for the kids. Some kids get to come over and do that kind of thing on a regular basis, and some kids we know don't get that opportunity as often. So it was a good opportunity for the kids to get over here and get to experience a college basketball game. They also recently had Lion Lincoln Electric. They shared an interactive presentation with our 4th grade students. They had some science standards around electricity, and these members from Lion Lincoln Electric came. They talked about those standards, shared some information, did some experiments with the kids. There was a good learning experience for our kids there as well, so thank you to Lion Lincoln for sponsoring that. At the middle school, we recently held our annual middle school spelling bee. Students had a chance to participate at the classroom level, and then they had the final rounds at the middle school recently. This year, Charles Mueller-Thompson and Lucienne Pearson finished in 1st and 2nd place for the 5th and 6th grade spelling bee. Roman Gall and Lauren Paulson finished in 1st and 2nd place in the 7th and 8th grade spelling bee. The winners are going to represent the middle school at the regional spelling bee that will be on February 7th in Redwood Falls. Congratulations to all of the participants for this year's spelling bee. High school, some things taking place there. We've had a LIFT grant we recently received that will allow students that are in our career internship class, CEO class, and intro to ed class to attend some chamber events. So the Young Professionals meets monthly for the chamber. And through this grant, we're able to send high school kids from those classes to attend that Young Professionals event. We'll have different high school students attending each of the months just to get an experience, get to touch base with some of these local community members. So it's a fun experience for our high school kids. At the high school also, we are starting registration for the 23-24 school year. It's hard to believe that we're there, but we are at registration time for next year already. So we're reviewing that book, making some final updates, and our high school staff will be meeting with current 8th grade students in the next couple of weeks to start registration process for them. Also at the high school, the John Baylor ACT Prep Program. It's something we've done the last few years at the high school, helping prepare kids for the ACT test. It's been a successful program to prepare kids for that test. The test is on April 4th, and the end of January, early February, the classes are going to start. It will happen during the 1-hour lunch with our high school kids learning a little bit more about taking the ACT test and some preparatory things for that. At Maytech, we have some visit planned with the Minnesota National Guard. They're going to come to Maytech, visit with kids, spend lunchtime there getting to know kids, and then taking times during social studies class talking about what it takes to be in the National Guard and to serve our country. So a good experience for our kids at that program who have asked to have the National Guard come and visit. Activities, it seems it's always a busy season for activities, but right now, as much as anything, there is something all the time taking place with activities. We recently hosted Big South Dance Competition. Our Marshall Tigers took home the 1st place in both jazz and kicks. Congratulations, dance team. Our wrestling team has had a lot of success this season as well. They recently won the Buffalo tournament. In gymnastics, after 3 cancellations for this first home event, we finally hosted the first gymnastics meet in our new space at the middle school. That new multi-purpose space where the pool used to be. It's a beautiful space all set up. We put a lot of time and energy into preparing that space, and it worked really well for a gymnastics space. So excited to have that going forward for hosting home gymnastics meets. Boys and girls hockey program recently awarded this year's Brady Rosa Spirit of Sportsmanship Award. Congratulations to Lily Stelter and to Tyler Welsh. Both are very deserving of this honor. And athletic training, we've had some changes with athletic trainer programs. We have some questions from families about that this year. We're partnering with Avera, continuing to partner with Avera on that. We've worked out some hours and some time with that, and just excited about the changes in that and how that's going. We feel like that's getting even better as we go throughout the year. All right, those are my announcements, Pete. Let's talk about Southview a little bit.
Sure.
So a lot of things always going on there as well with our 2nd, 3rd, and 4th graders at Southview Elementary. You've had a year and a half now on being at Southview. Let's just talk a little bit of the building first. What have you learned after being in that building for a year and a half?
Sure. So first thing is creating an expectation for our students and our staff. I feel like our PBIS team has taken that on and created different videos to teach proper etiquette, how to walk in the hall, how to go to the bathroom without making a mess, how to act in the media center, how to be at their lockers and not make a mess, how to go outside, proper ways to line up. The flow of the building is one thing that we've we've had to really tweak. We're pretty blessed to have different doors that we can kind of go in and out, especially during lunch times and whatnot. But it's been really fun to bring that school together and to have the help of our PBIS team. I think we will continue to add videos to it and have our students, our current students, develop those videos with the help of our teachers to keep reinforcing those things. Yeah. Another thing I would say that is really important is communication. I feel like we communicate in so many different forms. I talk to my secretary all the time about ways that we can get information out, whether it's newsletters, the school website, Facebook page, emails, Blackboard, whatever that is. But we have so many different families that like to be communicated in their own different ways that just communication, I think our parents really appreciate that. The last couple of times we've had e-learning days, I've asked our teachers to reach out and just connect with families, see how they're doing, how their kids are doing. Our kids need to be in school. And the number of e-learning days we've had and at our level, I just felt like that communication needs to be really strong. Mm-hmm. Probably the third thing I want to bring up is our staff and our students like consistency and predictability. We've tried really hard our entire staff have tried really hard to create an environment where safety of both staff and students always come first. But then after that, it's the individual growth of our students. And so I think those are the three kind of things that I've taken from the first year and a half at Southview.
Yeah, that's great. You think about moving into the new house, how you think it's going to function, and then how right. Things really work out in that space. And we walk through with the architects designing how we want the flow for lunchroom to go and where we want to have doors, and then we get kids in there. It's like, well, but there's a lot of kids right here.
Yes.
So, yeah, and we did just starting over with all those processes and procedures. So right. You and your staff did a really nice job putting that together. And I know when I've been there and observed those things, I feel like things are really going well. So thank you for all your efforts with that.
Thank you.
A lot of things have taken place. Just talk a little bit about some of the larger initiatives that you're taking on at Southview this year.
Sure. I put down a couple of different things. The first one is the science of reading implementation at second grade. That's kind of a statewide piece where we've had a lot of different trainings where our teachers are taking part in it. It's really the thought of teaching students to learn to read so that they can read to learn. And so we have that at our second grade level. There's new curriculum for them. And so it's a lot of information that our teachers are getting. And it's new. It's a different way of teaching, and so our teachers are going through that. We're lucky enough to have an instructional coach within our building that helps. And we've also really benefited from having Parkside kind of start that last year. And so now it's kind of flowing over to us, and we're seeing kind of the benefits of that switch or that shift. Another initiative that we're doing is using DIBEL's progress monitoring. DIBEL stands for Dynamic Indicators of Basic Early Literacy Skills, and we have our title teachers and our EL teachers and our instructional coach go through and do bursts of assessments with our students at the beginning of the year, mid-year, and end of the year to just make sure we know where all kids are at all times to see if we need to give them additional supports or interventions. Sure. Another big thing we're doing is our SEL curriculum. Last year we had one teacher kind of taking on all three grade levels and seeing basically every kid within the building, and that became a lot. And I felt like making personal connections with students was a little bit hard to do, even though they were able to do it very well. This year we have 3 different people taking on that role, so they each have a grade level. And they're also meeting with the kids in smaller groups as needed as well. So we're using second step still, but we have 3 teachers doing it versus 1. And I feel like that's going to be a big benefit, so they just get to know the kids even at a deeper level.
Sure, and that wasn't necessarily addition of staff, it was just reallocation of how we use the staff. Yeah.
Yep. I also feel like one thing that we're really spending a lot of time on is this new number sense curriculum that we're implementing. We have 2 assurance of mastery teachers that we've used in the past to help students work on basic math skills or work on skills that or finish up work or just anybody that needed additional help relating to math. Now we have something that's kind of set. This new curriculum has 20 lessons, about 15 to 20 minutes each, and it kind of brings them through different things that we kind of take for granted. Like one of the skills taught is how do you do doubles or doubles plus one. Some of our students don't have those concepts down. And so teaching those skills and giving our students just another tool to use when they're in the classroom. Sure. And then, the last piece and kind of what we want to focus on today is the guided math at 3rd and 4th grade.
Yeah. So let's talk about that a little bit. Tell
Sure.
me first, just what is guided math? I've heard of guided reading, and we've done that kind of for a few years in the district, but guided math is new.
Sure. So kind of going back a whole year, I always talk to our staff about reflection and the importance of reflecting on the growth of our students. And it's not just students within their classroom. I talk about as a school, how do we do collectively? And our math teachers came to me and just kind of said, we have a wide range of students within our classrooms. Every teacher has kids that are way behind their peers, and we have kids that are way above their peers in ability level and how they do on assessments. So how do we meet the needs of our kids? In the past, most math classrooms at 3rd and 4th grade involved doing a large group lesson, and then that was followed by homework time for kids to do independent practice. So we kind of talked about the need to meet kids where they're at. And that's what I love about the guided math program. Guided math is a framework of teaching students based on their needs and not just kind of the middle road. And so the whole group instruction is different. We may start with number talks, which was a focus a couple years back. We might start with warm-ups. We might do stretches. We might do different assessments in the whole group part, but that's not going to be the main focus of our lesson. There's a different component in guided math where we have the small group instruction. This takes a lot of planning, organization on our teachers, and really just a lot of planning so that it goes effectively. And then the last piece is the guided math rotations. So we might have small groups that are done with intentional small lessons geared towards kids with no more than 5 or 6 in a group. And then there's independent work usually where students kind of get to work on their own and show what they do understand. And then we also have different stations where students kind of show their learning or go through the learning process in different modes of learning. That might include using online resources like Reflex or Extra Math or flashcards or lots of different things. I love seeing that there's different stations where kids are up and moving around and using their hands and not just sitting at the desk doing a worksheet.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like we're taking some of the best practice strategies that we've known about reading for a number of years and applying some of those very similar strategies to math.
Right.
For example, taking into account an 8-year-old's attention span is going to be a lot shorter than what a high school kid's attention span would be. So.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's good. So what is guided math? I mean, that's kind of like a big overview what it is. What does it look like at Southview? So
just like you said, the attention span of our students is not really long. I always talk to our staff about, a 9-year-old usually can really stay attentive for about 9 minutes. So our classes are set up so that they're broken into 25-minute chunks. Our math classes have 3 of those chunks put together, so it's 75 minutes. And that's a lot of time to expect kids to sit and be attentive and do what they're supposed to do. So with the 75 minutes, we do have a lot of rotations. Our large group instruction, like I said now, is typically 10 minutes to 15 minutes at most. And it's usually an introduction to a new topic. There might be days where there is no large group instruction, other than maybe just getting a gauge of where the kids are at. Teachers have created at least 4 different stations, one of them being the teacher center where they come back and work with the teacher. Not all students will get to every station every single day. And so some of our groups maybe meet 4 out of the 5 days. Some of the groups need to meet every single day. So like I said, the focus is really on what the students need. I've really pushed the focus to be on movement and interacting with a topic of study in different forms. Like I said before, if we can do something with our hands or with manipulatives or building structures or even in math, sometimes being able to write about something and having that train of thought of, hey, can I teach it to somebody else? Or working in partners or groups, small groups. So those are kind of the focuses that we're looking at Southview. And then obviously the nice thing about 3rd and 4th grade is we do have one-on-one devices so that students do have a station where they can use that to kind of meet them where they're at with our curriculum online resources like Reflex Math.
Sure. And what I see with some of those online resources that come home with, like my kid, it's a lot of game-based learning where they get the instruction and they have some fun pieces with it, so it doesn't necessarily feel like a homework assignment.
Right.
Yeah. So maybe not all of our viewers know, but you were a math teacher for a number of years at the middle school before you came over to the admin side of the table.
Right.
So you're passionate about math. You have been for a number of years. I'm certainly one of the better math teachers I've ever worked with. So knowing that that's your background, that's your passion, what about guided math do you enjoy the most, are you most excited about?
Sure. So meeting the needs of the students, not just teaching to the middle of the road, and kind of knowing that if we just teach to this middle, that we have kids way above and way below that have probably already tuned out after the first 2-3 minutes. So that's probably one of the first things that I really like about it. I also feel like our students are able to learn expectations of different stations, and kids naturally learn by doing and feeling and touching and hearing and just all these different modes. And the more ways they can hear it and see it and touch it, the better they're going to retain it. So I like that piece about it. I like that this might be a little bit new to our math teachers, but our reading teachers have done it for a long time, like you've said. So when they have questions about, hey, how do I move kids around, they can go to their partner teacher and say, hey, how do you do it in reading, and have that conversation as well. But I would say the biggest piece is the classroom may not always be just quiet, but they're learning.
Right.
And when I walk into the classroom and I see different kids doing different things, I know that they know what they're supposed to be doing. So the expectations are set high. And it takes a long time to set up those different stations. I know probably the first month of the school was spent on just, hey, when you're in this back area, we're going to do this as a large group. This is what I expect you to do. And it also means we have to meet the needs of all of our kids, because some of our kids are going to need more help at those stations than others as well.
Right. Right. I know that's it's one of those things where the kids are familiar with the process, but it's new to the teachers.
Right.
So thinking about that, has the transition been a difficult transition for Southview, or has this not been difficult?
I would say it's pretty difficult. I think this is a big change for some of our teachers. I know some of our teachers were doing it already. So at the end of the school year last year, our teachers really asked for additional training. So then we looked kind of around. There wasn't anything that was close by. So then I found this Bureau of Education and Research training that's a one-day training. They have different modules, and I signed our teachers up for it. We basically gathered in our multi-purpose room, and we went through the videos together, and then they were given some time over the summer to kind of go through additional videos and take note, and then meet with their peers to kind of talk about what we like and what we would like to implement. I also feel like it probably would have been a lot tougher if we didn't have PLC built-in time. That's one of the huge benefits of our district, is that our teachers do get to meet on a weekly basis, and they can talk about, hey, what's working well within your groups? How did you set up your stations? Really focusing on our 4 guiding questions. Hey, what are we going to try to teach them? And how do we know that they got the concepts down? What do we do if they don't have the concepts? And what do we do if they already have the concepts? I think those are 4 of the most important questions that we have to just keep in the back of our minds, because we don't want kids that are bored, because once they're bored and they're sitting around, then that's when behaviors happen.
Absolutely. And thinking about those 4 primary tenets of PLC, that's kind of where we ground all of our teaching and learning in Marshall. So one of the big pieces of that is, we talk about what do we do if they already know it, and what do we do if they don't already know it. So for those kids that already know it, those real high-achieving kids, how are the teachers really targeting those kids and meeting their needs through this model?
Sure. So a small group and independent practice can be really guided towards the group itself. And so when they go back to a station, there might be, hey, green group, you're doing this, blue group, you're doing this, and whatnot. We've talked about pushing kids even higher than what the grade level is. If there's a pre-assessment and it shows that the kid hasn't mastered, there's no point in having them go through the process of, hey, there's 20 questions here, let's have you do all 20 of them. Mm-hmm. So we're pushing kids that way. Some of my teachers have asked about, can we do some more STEM-related stuff where they're using what they're learning in class to solve bigger problems. Sure. I like that idea a lot. And then just making sure that we're listening to our kids and what their needs are. When they come back in a small group and the kids want to learn about something, that we allow our kids to kind of come up with suggestions on what they want to learn about that's related to what they're doing. And so some of those higher achieving groups might only meet 3 to 4 times a week, and they're still showing their mastery of the concepts, but allowing them to have a say in what they want to learn about.
Right. It's great. We talk about meeting individual needs a lot. This is a
Yep.
good way to do that.
Yep.
So let's talk about the other end of that spectrum. We just got a couple minutes left in our time, but
Sure.
for the lower kids, the kids who struggle more with this, how are we meeting their needs during this time?
Sure. So I feel like our lower end kids, when they know what's expected at each of the stations, they once they set a routine, it might take months for that routine to kick in, but once they know what to expect, then they kind of relax a little bit, and they know that, hey, I might not get this, but I'm working towards it. So there's a big focus on just the individual growth model. I'm here, but I want to get to here. We display all of our I can statements on our whiteboards, and we start each lesson that way. And so students know at this grade level, I need to know this. Mm-hmm. And when a teacher says, hey, we're going to work on this because this is going to help you get to this point, talking them through that is going to help them see that. Another big piece that we're doing is that E-STAR number sense intervention. All of our math teachers have that, and they can choose to do that within their small groups if that's an area where they feel like it's needed. But our assurance of mastery teachers do pull about 20 kids each, 20 at third and 20 at fourth, and they work on some of those interventions. And then if we still have kids that are still struggling after those, then we do have a student assistance team that meets, and teachers can bring students forward and look at the data and say, hey, as a team, what do we do next to meet the needs of this kid?
Talk about those individual interventions and such.
Right.
Well, it sounds like some really great work taking place, and we really appreciate everything that you and the staff at Southview are doing to meet individual student needs with math.
Yeah.
That sounds like some great programs. So
Yeah.
we appreciate everybody tuning in today and listening to Tiger Talk and learning about guided math and the changes at Southview, and we look forward to seeing you again next month.